Hello and welcome to the sixth podcast with Lillian and Andy. This time we're going to be discussing change of identity following a Parkinson's diagnosis.
And most people get very startled when they get the diagnosis. They have maybe only a little symptoms and go to the doctor, and then they get this diagnosis of one of the most devastating chronic illnesses. So they feel that the rug is pulled away under them. And I think that's mainly because it is based on the knowledge they had before of the diagnosis. What
Yeah.
did you know about Parkinson before you were diagnosed?
Well, I think that I thought it was a devastating degenerative disease that would only lead to me being in a wheelchair. But when I got my diagnosis, it was a relief because I thought I wanted something to happen. I wanted to have a diagnosis. As human beings, we like to have names for things, and I wanted to have a name for what was wrong with me. So it was a relief to get the diagnosis.
And that, can you say, is pretty interesting because more than 9 and 10 get devastated when they get this diagnosis. In what way could it be a release to get the top 10 worst diagnosis?
Well, I suspected that it was Parkinson's. I suspected it for some time. It took me a long time to get diagnosed. So when I did get the diagnosis, it was a relief. I'm not saying it's not disappointing because it's not what anybody wants to hear. But looking back now from the position I'm in now, I see the diagnosis in a very different way to how I saw it at the time because I have changed so much.
Yeah. So what is the importance of the diagnosis for you now you have changed?
The diagnosis is something to kind of push against, really, because the diagnosis suggests that you're in a degenerative state, that you can only get worse. But I have evidence, because I have better days and worse days, that my condition isn't necessarily just going in one direction, because I have better days and I have worse days. And you would think if it was degenerative, every day would be slightly worse. That's not the case at all.
That's very fascinating, and that's actually one of the big building blocks in my Overcome Parkinson
Mm.
course, that you start getting curious about this variation.
Mm.
But to get back to the subject, why do you think most people get so startled that it nearly become a trauma? It's one of the most common trauma I help people to solve.
It is traumatic for a lot of people because the associations we have with Parkinson's, with the word Parkinson's disease, you are instantly trapped in a way of thinking that is terrifying. It's very negative. The advice is take the drugs, it will get worse. It's a very, very negative place to be, and it is traumatic for a lot of people, very, very stressful. And that's the very last thing you need is something that makes you even more stressed than you have been up to that point.
Some people call it nocebo effect, that it will happen if an authority figure tells you and you start believing it. So here in the facet of identity, it's that your future get replaced from a, I guess, probably pretty uncomplicated future where the focus is job, grandchildren, and vacations. If you have that sort of money, it get ripped away, all these things, and you only see something dark. So how did that change your future?
Well, to begin with, I thought my future was quite bleak. When I first got the diagnosis, I thought this is awful. It's a bleak future. But now, having done the Overcome course and having done lots of research myself, I don't know my future. My future is unknown. It's as unknown as anybody else's future. It's very easy to sit there and say, I have Parkinson's, my future is terrible. But you don't know that. Nobody knows their own future.
And the interesting thing here is that before we sort of guessed that we will continue our life. We knew that we would stop working. We hoped that we get grandchildren. We knew we would get more time to spend with hobby work or whatever we like. And then I guess we didn't think a lot about the future. What did you think about your future before?
I mean, I had plans of things I was going to do, but I still see it in a similar way now as an unknown thing. I can't predict my own future. I don't know what's going to happen. And there's a kind of freedom about that, a relief about that, about not thinking my future is negative and bleak and terrible and I'm going to be in a wheelchair. And it's so much better to think more positively and more realistically, actually, more realistically about it.
And I guess people think it's realistic to think about you in a wheelchair because that's what doctors are telling you. We don't know our future. Even that's a lot of insecurity. It's actually a lot better than having the wheelchair waiting.
Definitely, yeah,
So,
definitely.
and you can say, we don't know in the next 5 minutes, you could fell down your stair and break something, and then it was a wheelchair or death or hospital or something else.
Yeah.
We don't know. And we have trusted our future. Even every year are some that are run over of cars and dying in way before expected
Mm,
lifetime. So there's a trust that are thrown out the window getting
mm,
this diagnosis.
mm, mm. Definitely, it undermines you. It really undermines you. It, as you said, it pulls the rug from under your feet. It's not necessarily all bad,
But
because
there's a difference that you had an idea that it might was Parkinson. So you build it up your knowledge about it,
mm,
and maybe you saw other illnesses you didn't like. And there I've heard one that got a relief because he feared it was cancer. So cancer has this stigma that it's you will die from it and you will die
mm,
soon.
mm.
So it's depend on the knowledge you have before, and you
Yeah,
build out and made some research before.
yeah. And as I say, it was a relief because I suspected it's what I had, and I'd been misdiagnosed before. So when you get the the correct diagnosis, it's a relief. That's the strongest feeling I felt, more than fear or being undermined or terrified of my future. It was just a relief, really.
So if people only have a maybe a small symptoms and haven't given it a lot of thought and then come to a neurologist, I can tell you they get a shock.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. Definitely, definitely.
So that shock of getting a diagnosis like Parkinson can easily become a trauma.
Yeah, and that ramps up your symptoms.
Yeah. So, and then we have the poor guy from Canada that at the time of the diagnosis get offered assisted dying.
That's appalling. That's just terrible.
Yeah. So that was one from the group that biked 20 kilometers to a doctor and neurologist and got the diagnosis and biked 20 kilometers back again after got offered assisted dying. So that doesn't help people.
No, it's fixed in their minds as to what will happen to you. There's no options, there's no choice. And that's nonsense. We always have a choice. We can choose what we do each day.
Yeah, but it probably doesn't help on your identity that you have the choice every day nearly. Is this a bad day? Should I choose this assisted
Mm,
dying or what? And if you have your identity, your previous identity in hard activities or moving around, then you cannot use that identity anymore.
There's a tendency to compare yourself now with yourself before.
Yeah,
Well, I used to be able to do that, now I can't.
yeah,
But I'm not sure that that's very helpful. I think it's better to think, well, I can do this. I can't do that, but I can do this. I can do other things.
yeah. I think that's important thing that you can say you can learn the guys that I haven't got a chronic illness that what are your identity? What is it built on upon? Is
Mm.
it you having a good job? Is it you being a parent? Is it you being physical active? Is it you being a spouse to someone? Where's your identity? Because if you only have one pillar to lean into here, then
Mm.
it's a lot if that's pulled away. And it's pretty common that you retire after a couple of years with a diagnosis like Parkinson. Have you retired?
No, I'm not retired. I'm still working, but I'm working part-time, so I work less, and I'm doing a job which I really enjoy, which is essential because I want to keep my stress down. Wouldn't mind retiring. It would be quite good, I think. I'd quite like to retire, but I'm not ready to quite yet.
Yeah.
But
So you
it's,
have the chance to reduce your workload.
yeah, I don't structure my identity around my work. My work is just a part of what I do. It's a part of me. It's not my whole identity. And I think for some people, their job, their work, their career is really, really important to them and is the backbone of who they are.
And
And I think,
we hear stories about especially men that die simply 2 years after retirement because they don't know what to do.
yeah, so it underlines the fact that your identity is important.
Yeah. And now we can slowly learn that it's important to have different pillars to
Mm,
lean into. So
mm,
you're not so dependent that one of them go away. And lack of physical activities, it can, if you break your legs, it's 6 weeks. If you get stiff in a leg or something, it can be longer, but
mm.
it doesn't mean it cannot come back.
You need to be kind to yourself
Yeah.
because from my experience of this condition, I mean, I've been able to do things now that I couldn't do a year ago. You know, simple things like wiping the surfaces when I'm not on my medication. I can do that now. I couldn't do that a year ago. So it's not a fixed path, and you need to remind yourself that.
Yeah. What about your confidence? Was the diagnosed, did that give any crack in your confidence?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It definitely did. To begin with, I spent all my time at home. I didn't go out. I was very reclusive, very much a loner, because I didn't want people to see my symptoms, my tremor. Um, it definitely dented my confidence, but I've taken steps to kind of address that. And through my work and through interacting with people, I feel more confident now than I did certainly when I first got the diagnosis. Unmistakably, it's a dent to your confidence.
So that is part of your identity.
Mm.
I'm just guessing, but that you must look normal, whatever that is.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. You fear being seen as odd or unusual or different. I think everybody fears that.
Yeah.
And when you've got Parkinson's, because your symptoms are external, some of them are external, people can see a tremor and you worry about what people think about that. I mean, the reality is that most people are probably quite compassionate or indifferent or interested in themselves. So it's not that interesting for people. But from the inside, it feels that everyone's looking at you.
So that is part of your identity to, what would you say? I'm the normal looking person? What have you been telling yourself all your life?
That I'm a normal looking person. But the thing is, that's changed now, and it's better to accept it than to try and fight it. Because if you try and fight a tremor, for example, it just gets stronger. It wants to come out.
Yeah, so that was, can you say, a part of your confidence that was lacking? I
Yeah,
mean, I'm just, before in time, were you allowed to, in your own mind, to take a Hawaii shirts on and dance at a bar or do karaoke or something like that? Was that under your...
I would have done things like that. Yes, yes, I would have done. I've got a Hawaiian shirt.
So what's changed? So you're a pretty extrovert person.
Well,
So what allowed you before to take the center of attention? I mean, that's what symptoms do. They take the center of attention.
it's an interesting question. I'm not sure really. I mean, I've still got my Hawaiian shirt. I do wear it from time to time still to make the point that I'm okay, because I think it does say that, and that I don't mind people looking at me. Um, I think I've changed. My attitude towards my symptom is different now. My attitude towards myself is different. Towards my identity is different. I'm less concerned about what people think. I'm still bothered about it to an extent, but not as much.
So can you see out in the future that yeah, you have a tremor, yeah, you are limping or dragging a leg, and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if I'm feeling all right about it, if I'm feeling okay in my head, if I'm not having stressful thoughts, then it's okay to have exterior tremors or a limp or dragging my foot. If I'm feeling okay in myself, and it's a lot of this is to do with how you view yourself. It's
And
crucial.
and you can see that's a little switch you have to make, and you're nearly saying that somewhere in your head that if you do this and that, you're okay in the eyes of other people. If you do this and that, you're not okay in other people's.
But this is what you talk about, Lillian. You talk about internal rules, and we all have these rules which we believe, but they're just our own rules, our own personal rules. So, if you have to break them, break them.
Yeah. And you can say there's a lot of people that have some sort of handicap and always drag attention wherever they go,
Mm.
but I'm pretty sure most of them have turned the switch that's like, okay, whatever. It is what it is.
I was out on Monday and there was a lady in a mobility cart, electric mobility cart, and she was singing so happily. And I thought, good on you, well done,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah. So she actually dragged more attention to herself.
Yeah, yeah. I
Maybe
thought,
that's an idea.
yeah, I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was really good what she was doing.
So is it like there is some elements of not so good confidence that you have had your
Yeah,
whole life?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So
think I'm more confident now than I was when I got the diagnosis. Definitely,
yeah.
definitely, because that was a very downward trajectory that I was on. And now I don't feel like that anymore. I feel like I'm having better days, and I'm still having bad days, but I'm having better days
Yeah.
than I had 3 years ago when I got the diagnosis.
And we just, instead of seeing this it only get worse, we start to notice what is good as well, and then see if there's a connection.
Mm,
What did I do the days things were bad? What
mm,
did I do the day things was good? And then we do less of one and more of the other.
mm.
And then suddenly or slowly things become better and
It's
better.
definitely slowly. It's definitely slowly, but it's really worth the wait. You have to be very patient and kind to yourself with this condition, I think.
And what we have heard here is it's because you need to change your thoughts about a lot of things.
You do, absolutely. You have to change yourself.
So then someone mentioned that you suddenly need to ask other people for help. Maybe you have some of the tasks in home you have switched with your spouse because it was easier to do AB than it was before. Did
Yeah.
that come with any crack in confidence?
Um, that's an interesting question. I think that I've been reluctant to ask people for help, but I've got better at doing it. And I don't see it now as a kind of terrible thing. You know, I think people pretend that they can do things when they can't do things, and I think it's not. It's frustrating if you know you can't do something and you try and do it. It's frustrating if you can't do it. So don't put yourself in that stressful situation. Just ask for help.
Yeah, so it's again a belief I should be able to do this myself.
Mm, mm.
And maybe it's fine to let go of that and just allow people to
Yeah,
help you.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think again, part of the Parkinson's personality or the identity of someone with Parkinson's is this need to be the person, to be the doer, the person that does things, the person that's always busy, that's on the go, that's productive, that's active. And I think that's something I've really, of myself, I've really had to address and think about. You know, I don't need to push myself anymore.
So this subject actually come up in my community Sunday, and we had a long talk about this, and that's what I base this question to you around. So there was one telling that I would have to do everything 100% of my potential for my age.
Yeah.
That's a person talking with very high standards.
Yeah, but what's 100% for your age? How does anyone know that? It's different for everybody. Some people 100% is doing sitting on the sofa all day, you know, so it's sort of meaningless in a way because it doesn't make any sense.
And if you have a standard on 100%, could that be part of your stress?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. I've got to do it well. It's putting stress on yourself.
And you can say also 100%, it's like perfect. You
Yeah,
must be perfect all the time.
I must work through this list today. No, you don't have to do that. Just be kind to yourself.
And that's one of the things you need to sort of look into yourself. What are my high demands towards myself? And which of them cause stress? And look into these.
Yeah, absolutely. I've tried to do this over the last few months, and when I've done it well, it makes a huge difference.
And then there's an aspect of growing older.
Mm.
They say that we are the best when we are 27 years old, and then we have a slow but steady physical decline. So we have never tried to be how we are now. Is that something that you cannot do more anymore that you could do when you were your late 20s? Can you run as fast
No,
or
no, I can't run as fast. I can't swim as far. I can't. There's all kinds of things that I can't do. But what's the point of being frustrated about what you can't do that you could do when you were 27? You know, I'm different. I'm older. It's okay. It's what happens. Everybody gets older, and
so
we're
that's an
lucky. We're lucky to get older. We're lucky to be here still.
and it doesn't help us all the time to compare with the past.
No, definitely not.
But if instead of, oh no, I'm getting worse and worse, say, yeah, I'm worse than I was 1, 2, 3, 4 years ago, but it doesn't need to continue that way, that you can bounce back again.
But there's also other things about getting older that are good. You know, you certainly know a lot more about the world. You're better informed usually. You know, so mentally, I think it's better to be older because you're more equipped to deal with things.
And here we, in regard to chronic illness, it's people that a little too fast have experienced a decline in physical
Mm.
activities, and they are fearful.
Yeah, of course you would be because it's scary when you can't do what you could do a few months ago.
And they can actually do a lot about the way they are thinking.
Yeah, this is essential. This is the most important. Change the way that you think. Because if you think that you're on a degenerative path, you will be on a degenerative path.
So all we do is to, in the Overcome courses, to rip people out of this and give them tools to do it and to examine themselves and their symptoms.
Mm.
Is there an up and down in your symptoms where you could be curious upon
Yeah,
that?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, yesterday I was feeling, it was a very hot day. I was feeling quite a little bit symptomatic because it was a hot day. And I thought I'll go and sit and play my keyboard. And I play my keyboard and I suddenly feel better because I'm not thinking about myself or how I feel. My hands are playing the keys and my mind is distracted and my mind is being used for something different. And suddenly my symptoms change. They're much easier.
So if I should say that's a person, you're a person that have been on my Overcome course,
Mm.
and you, instead of getting anxious, oh no, I'm getting worse, you start thinking, what can I do about
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
So you
yeah.
know there's a stress component, and I can here tell you that any external extreme, for example, hot weather, cold weather, humid weather, whatever, it push a pressure and make your symptoms a little worse than a day where it's normal for your area.
Yeah, but I knew that, Lily. And yesterday I said to myself, it's because it's hot and humid, I feel a bit worse. But I knew what that was. And this is why the course is so good because it gives you this knowledge. And knowledge is power, definitely.
And have this toolbox to,
Mm.
okay, things are a little worse now. What does that mean? I'm a little more stressed. Today it was due to the weather that pushed everything a little. Okay, I grab my toolbox and pick one of the tools here and come back
Mm.
to a better state. And
Yeah,
yesterday it was your piano.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, there's things I can't play on my piano that I used to be able to play, but I always think I'll get it back. If I keep practicing, I'll get it back because new pathways will occur in my brain and I'll be able to do these things that I think that I can't do at the moment. I feel very optimistic about it. Whereas, again, going back 2 or 3 years, I thought there's no point playing piano. It's just gonna get worse and worse. That's not true.
So you actually stopped it for a period.
I stopped it for a period of time because I thought it would be too disappointing. But it's brilliant. When I play now, I always feel better. Always.
So you had actually an identity that, I don't know on which level, but that I'm the one that can play the piano to a certain extent, and then suddenly something was wrong with your fingers and you couldn't, and that spiraled you nearly worse
Yeah.
because it was a sign that you has gotten worse.
So I chose not to play because I just thought it will be too upsetting. But the opposite, in fact, true because when I play now, I always feel really good. You know, it will calm symptoms down. It's brilliant. I wish I realized this 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm not playing, but I guess that there are easy pieces and very, very difficult pieces. So it's possible to find a level where your physical abilities with your hands are right now.
Yeah, and also, Lillian, to add to that, I've recently learned, like last week, I learned a new piece, which I've never played before. Not particularly difficult, but it's very, very encouraging when you can learn new music when you have a degenerative condition. It's
Yeah.
very interesting, that, isn't it? But you can gradually increase as well, so you can make it slightly more difficult each time you learn a new piece. And it's good to push yourself a little bit. And
Yeah.
then, as I say, I get such good feedback from it, and my symptoms reduce when when I play. That it's a win-win for me.
Isn't it? I hope you can all hear that. That's pretty amazing that you can sit down with one level of symptoms and then you play a piece that's not too difficult and then you reduce your
Mm,
symptoms. That's
mm,
all the course and everything I do is around being curious. What's going on here?
mm, mm.
What happened? You came to the piano with one level of stress, then you play whatever, and then you leave the piano with a little less stress. Isn't that
Yeah.
fascinating?
It's brilliant, and it also shows that you carry on learning. However old you are, you carry on learning, and your brain is making new connections all the time. And that's amazing. That's so encouraging. And despite the fact that you're supposedly degenerating, you're making strides forward at the same time. So that's very interesting.
So, to lean into the subject of identity, what was your identity in regard to playing your piano before, and what is it now?
Well, before I think it was something that I was okay at. I wasn't. I'm not a brilliant pianist. I just enjoy it. I get a lot. I get a lot out of it. I love playing. Now I get even more out of it because it calms my symptoms down. So now it's actually like therapy.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's smart.
it's like therapy. It is a form of therapy, and a lot of what I do now I see as therapy.
It is.
Yeah.
And you can say if you combine it with the knowledge you have
Mm,
from the Overcome Parkinson course, if you can
mm.
combine these two things, then a lot of things can become therapy
Yeah.
because you are aware, you are conscious about what you do and curious.
Yeah. Curious is the key. I think you're right. Curious is a really important thing because curiosity is such a positive trait to have, to be curious. And it's I think you listen to some people talking on YouTube, for example, with Parkinson's, and they're very negative. They lack curiosity. They're they're not really engaged in any kind of therapy that might lower their stress. And these things are all really important, I think.
So if we take you as an example, what did you think about your symptoms before you came to the Overcome course? Was it like it's just symptoms, or what were your thoughts?
I
It
didn't really think about them, Lily, and I just thought that this is what happens. I'm kind of a victim. I'm destined to get worse. That's what I thought. I was
and you
very, very unhappy, very unhappy.
and did you have any thoughts that sometimes you have no symptoms and sometimes you have less symptoms? I mean, you have tried it before you start eating the medication.
Hmm.
Was there any thoughts about now there's a lot of symptoms, now there's less symptoms?
I think I had quite a lot of symptoms at the beginning, which were really, really unpleasant. I remember having an incredibly stiff neck, which I don't have now. And I had to sort of lie on the floor with my head up against a piece of furniture because it was the only position I was comfortable in. I was in a terrible way, really. I was very, very unhappy. I was very frightened. I don't have the fear that I had now. Then I don't have that fear. It was terror. I was terrified actually.
So before you had no conscious about your symptoms and how they fluctuate.
Not really, no. I just thought this is horrible. I was so emotional about it, so upset about it that I didn't sit down and kind of detach myself and think, right, what's happening? Are the symptoms always bad? Are they sometimes better? I didn't ask myself any of those questions. I was just very emotional, very upset, very scared. And I think because I was so scared, my symptoms were probably ramped up all the time.
And it's the first 14 days of the course that I ask you to be curious on your symptoms. What was your thought when I say try listen to what's going on? Make a little story about your symptoms.
It was kind of enlightenment. It was very, very revealing. I thought, wow, there's something to this. There's definitely something to this. I'm having a stressful day and my symptoms are much higher. I'm going in the car, my symptoms are much higher. I'm staying at home, having a lovely day, my symptoms are much lower. It was very obvious.
And with these words, I hope you all should join the Overcome course and start getting this confidence that you hear in Andy here, because that happened. The course is 5 months, and that's how confident you can become after 5 months. Being conscious, going from,
Yeah.
if you should say a couple of sentences, that you come from the dark to, how would you describe the process?
It is coming from the dark into the light, definitely, definitely. I feel my future feels unknown and positive, and I'm excited about it. I'm much more aware of my thoughts, my body, how I'm feeling, how I'm thinking. I'm much more aware of these things, and it's changed me fundamentally.
So now I'm asking, are you actually changing your previous identity to whatever it was to something else now?
I hope so. I
Are
hope
you
so.
more conscious?
Yeah, because my previous identity, I believe, is what led me here. So I need and I want to change my identity to be more healthy, to be healthier, to be better, to be more positive.
Could we say that this identity already has happened? You are just new in this.
Yeah, I think I'm still going through the process, but I'm getting my identity has definitely shifted, definitely changed. Yeah, and I'm really pleased about it.
Yeah. So from being unconscious about how your surroundings, thoughts, emotions shape you to have an identity of being conscious about what's
Yeah,
going on.
I'm less scared of myself. I think I was actually scared of myself because I thought I'm deteriorating. This is frightening. I don't want to think about it. I want to push it to one side, take the tablets and just switch off. That's not the answer. That's definitely not the answer. You have to change yourself. And by
Yeah.
changing yourself, you change the symptoms.
So,
Definitely.
it's something you can think about, but I'm pretty sure your identity have changed in this process.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good thing.
So with these words, we will stop the recording and feel free to comment with a subject we can talk about another time. It could be interesting to have a little of the viewers' viewpoint upon this. See you in next episode.
Bye bye.